nothing about you.
Criteria that are causing the pneumonia are also taken apart, what's classified as sepsis.
And does that, the extent of that pneumonia and the extent of that sepsis, does that tell you?
Well, it's a serious infection and one that correlates with her nutritional status. Her dehydration and malnutrition and overall debilitated state would have been a significant risk factor in her developing.
Did you take note regarding any particular organs and the state of any particular organs, what that would tell you about the duration of that state?
Well, microscopically, again, these things are still being done. Microscopically, you'll be able to tell whether this pneumonia is all acute and it's more within the realm of a few days old versus pneumonia that may have been developing over a longer period of time, what we would call an organized. There was some, what I would call, ischemic change to the intestine, a portion of the intestine, which is something that is common with low blood pressure. In an infection like this sepsis, one of the things that you see is vital sign changes with low blood pressure. Of course, you can see low blood pressure also with dehydration. So there's a small amount of bloody fluid within the intestine, which correlates with some changes that are going on in the intestine. And that was a laboratory test was done and it identified that the contents within that portion of the intestine showed some blood.
And the state of Mackenzie's liver and thymus gland, did you know anything about that?
Yes. The thymus gland was very small, 5 grams. Many times the thymus gland in the child is very large. The thymus gland will involute or atrophy over time such that adults don't have much of a thymus gland at all. But a child, because of their state of development, and immunization type, immunology type status, because the thymus gland is involved with various cells involved with immunity and what have you. So in a child it is quite large. In an adult it's atrophied, and this child had a very, very small thymus, which is one feature that you see with malnutrition. And the liver, again, we're still evaluating microscopic slides. Some of them that I've gotten back have shown that there's some fatty change in the liver, which is also a feature that you see with prolonged malnutrition.
So specifically, that atrophy of the thymus gland and what you described of the liver, is that indicative of prolonged malnutrition?
Well, it is. Malnutrition alone doesn't occur in a day or 2 days or really within a week. Malnutrition is a process that typically occurs over a longer period of time. Dehydration, on the other hand, is something that can fluctuate. Somebody can become dehydrated in a matter of hours in certain situations, but more commonly over the course of several days. Somebody could be in normal hydration status at one point and then days later could show significant signs of dehydration, whereas malnutrition is more of a prolonged type of process.
And based upon what you observed in the entirety of all of your observations, could you make an assessment about the duration of malnutrition that we're talking about for this child?
Well, I think I can say that this child was malnourished over a period of months and more likely years. I reviewed medical records, and in correlating those medical records to what was ultimately found at the time of her death, you see that this child was showing signs of what is likely malnutrition dating back greater than a year. It seems that the malnutrition probably worsened significantly between the last time the child was seen by a physician and at the time of death, last time being approximately a year and 3 months prior to her death. But even at that time, the child was very small and low weight, not showing good development.
And based on your review of those records, was there some suggested follow-up at that time?
There was suggested follow-up based on some of the findings of that pediatrician. I believe it was a referral to a pediatric endocrinologist. There was also a follow-up visit that I think March 16th, which there was a no-show reported for that visit. I don't believe that the pediatric endocrinologist ever was. The appointment was never made.
Did you, at this point, are you in a position to give an assessment regarding cause of death in this case?
Based on materials that I've reviewed, which is not everything, but nearly everything, it's my opinion that this child suffered from severe dehydration, malnutrition, complicated by pneumonia, and some related sequelae following that.
And what is your determination if you are in a position to make one regarding manner of death?
This is a neglect situation, and again, based on the materials that I've reviewed, this is the classification.
And when you say, when you use the term neglect, there's aspects of forensic pathology that use those types of terms, neglect, accident, things like that. Would you agree?
Correct, and these are not legal terms. These are medical terms to try to characterize a particular set of circumstances. Neglect here, in my terminology, is one where the child wasn't given the basic necessities to live and thrive. Whether the circumstances by which that occurred fall more into a legal situation.
Based upon your observations of, in particular, the genital injury or damage that you observed, as well as the pneumonia and the general state that this child was in, do you have an assessment of how she would have outwardly appeared in the hours, days prior?
Well, clearly this child is emaciated and cachectic in appearance. That is something that readily visible. Dehydration status is a little more difficult to assess just upon external signs. But the degree of dehydration, as evidenced by the autopsy and some of the laboratory testing that was done, indicates to me that this child would have shown signs and symptoms related to that, meaning that this child would have been lethargic, not moving around, doing things that a normal 5-year-old would do. It's hard to characterize exactly what the actions would be, but clearly her actions would have been significantly subdued, lethargic, somnolent, just, again, not doing things that a normal child would do. And again, these things could have been closer to the time of the actual demise, because dehydration, while it can wax and wane, fluid status changes quite quickly depending on what type of fluids are tested.
Can you explain briefly what is lividity?
Sure, lividity is the pooling of blood after death. Lividity stains the skin, and it's based on gravity, meaning that blood will pool to the dependent portions of the body, such that if somebody is on the back, then the blood will slowly settle toward the back and give the skin a reddish purple discoloration. It is a sign of death. It, for all intents and purposes, only occurs after death, and it is something that begins to occur right after the death. occurs, but it becomes visible and becomes more prominent over time.
And is there a particular time frame that you would start to see?
Well, you can see lividity relatively quickly. You can begin to see some early signs within the hour following death, but it becomes much more prominent over the next many hours, and ultimately will become more prominent, provided that the body is left in one position. Should the body be moved, then the lividity can shift.
And rigor mortis, could you explain what that is?
Sure. Rigor mortis is the stiffening of muscles after death, which, again, is a sign of death. It only occurs once death has occurred, and it develops in the small muscle groups within, maybe showing early signs within an hour or so, and then progressing over the next 8 to 12 hours, becoming more pronounced and involving larger muscle groups, and then it slowly will dissipate over the next 8 to 12 hours. Keeping in mind that the process of rigor mortis is quite dependent on the environmental temperatures.
And am I correct in saying rigor mortis, you had indicated will basically come and go, it will dissipate. Lividity, though, remains, is that correct?
Lividity will remain, and it will become fixed, meaning that it will now, instead of just being visible under the skin, it will stain the skin, and then if the body is turned, the lividity won't shift to the new position. So that occurs, give or take, 10 or 12 hours after death. And then the decomposition will ultimately set in down the road, and it will obscure the lividity, but it doesn't go away.
Did you have an opportunity, I think you'd indicated you reviewed the medical records from St. Joseph Mercy, the ER specifically where Mackenzie was taken
Yes.
at the time of her death. Do you recall those records?
Yes, I do.
And specifically, does it factually pertain to your assessment what temperature Mackenzie would have been at the time she was taken to the hospital?
Yes, I think it's important to note that when the child was assessed by EMS and assessed by hospital personnel, that she had no vital signs. She was essentially asleep. There was a resuscitation attempt both by EMS and by hospital personnel. Various things were done. Her rectal temperature was found to be 92.2 degrees, and that indicates a core temperature of approximately 91 to 91 and a half.
Do you recall what time that temperature would have been taken in the ER?
2107, 907.
9:07 p.m. If you had information that Mackenzie, the time of the 911 call was approximately a half hour earlier, about 8:29 p.m., and that happened within minutes of her going into some sort of distress or problem, is that consistent with a temperature that would be at that degree approximately?
No, I would expect that the death would have occurred earlier in order for her temperature to drop from the presumed normal temperature, although with the pneumonia that is present and the septic situation that exists, she may have actually been running fever, but we don't know that. So taking the assumption that her temperature was normal, I would not have expected to drop from 98, 98.7 to 91 or 91 and a half within 30 minutes. That's just too much of it. That is just, the drop would have been, it's greater than you would expect to have occurred within a half an hour to an hour, considering that most of the time the body temperature will cool following death, assuming normal, comfortable room-type temperatures, maybe a degree an hour, give or take. There's no exact science to it, but the numbers here just don't match up.
Thank you, Doctor. I don't have
Shay, Jonathan wants to start.
Doctor, I want to start here. You talk about the you making a educated guess regarding the fact that you expected the death to be earlier than 8/29 based on what you know about the case. And you mentioned the fact that pneumonia could impact the time of death as well, or the core temperature of the body. Is that correct?
Correct. I don't know her temperature at the time that she suffered the arrest.
Right. But you would acknowledge that pneumonia could have an impact on your timeline regarding time of death, correct?
The pneumonia and sepsis could actually have caused fever, which would have increased her temperature, which would actually make the time frame longer.
Okay. You indicate that you started the autopsy on May 27th, is that correct?
Yes.
And it carried over into May 28th, is that true?
Yes.
And I heard part of what you said with regard to the cause of death, but could you again state that your voice was sort of trailing off?
Sure. Again, based on the information that I have, which is nearly all the information that I will be receiving, dehydration and malnutrition complicated by pneumonia and related sequelae.
Okay. You indicated that Mackenzie was small for a child her age, correct?
Yes.
Now, you said that she was 25 pounds, which was very low, and was in a very low percentile for children of her age, comparable children of her age, correct?
Yes, it's less than the third percentile.
And
That's as low as the charts really go.
Right. And so for you, one of the things that indicated to you was malnutrition and obviously dehydration, as you said when you were testifying in direct examination, correct?
Yes.
You said that there are ebbs and flows with regard to dehydration, but with malnutrition, something like that can't occur over a long period of time, correct?
I think I said it does typically occur over a more prolonged period of time.
Right. And you did indicate that there had been a time when the parents took Mackenzie to a doctor approximately a year earlier, true?
Yes, a year and 3 months.
And it would not be improbable that those signs of quote-unquote malnutrition were existent at that time, true?
They could have been in some way, shape, or form.
And you did make note of the fact that in your review of the medical records, there was a referral to a pediatric endocrinologist, correct?
Yes.
And do you have any theory as to why the doctor would have referred the child to a pediatric endocrinologist?
I believe that the notes indicate that the child was developing poorly, that the child was underweight, and that there was some abnormal laboratory values which the doctor who was seeing the patient felt should be worked out further.
And the medical records report the fact that parents brought the child in because the child was displaying some of those tendencies. Isn't that also true?
No, on the 2/2013 visit was a follow-up visit following a brief admission to Children's Hospital because of what was felt to be a bowel obstruction. Of course, when the child got to Children's, they ruled out a bowel obstruction and sent the child, I believe, back to the family with the idea that they should follow up with their pediatrician. That was, I think, 4 days prior, on February 16, February 17, and then the follow-up visit was February 20.
You also indicated on direct examination that there was this study of the genital area, and you talked about the fact that you're still waiting for tissue samples to get back. Is that true?
Correct. There was various trace evidence, sexual assault specimens, and microscopic studies that were taken, and those are in the process of being evaluated.
So
at this
now-
point, how I'm characterizing those findings is one of an excoriated, ulcerated tissue with evidence of infection. the actual underlying etiology is not entirely clear.
And you also indicated that another item that you're waiting for is you're waiting for some of the liver tissue samples to come back?
Well, I'm waiting for all of the well, I have some of the microscopic slides. I haven't reviewed all of them. I did look at a liver sample which showed some fatty change in the tissue.
So are these the couple of items that you're waiting on before you can prepare a finalized report?
Correct.
And you have not provided any kind of written findings to the prosecution up to this point?
I have not.
You indicated on direct examination that you reviewed medical records in this case and just testified as to this incident in February of 2013. I think you said that you reviewed the medical records from St. Joseph's Mercy on 5/26/15. Is that true?
Yes.
And then the Lighthouse, correct?
Yes. I don't know if I've seen every record from Lighthouse, but I do have some.
Okay. And Children's Hospital, correct? Is that also correct?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else that you reviewed?
I reviewed some, very briefly I might add, because I just received them, some records that date back to the child's birth.
Was there anything about the child's birth weight or anything of that nature that gave you cause for concern? Or?
Again, I haven't reviewed all of those in depth, but there was nothing upon brief review that indicated any problem at the time of delivery or in the early phase.
You also indicated that the child, Mackenzie, was demonstrating some signs of pneumonia. I think you specified the right middle lobe. Were you able to assess how long the child would have had that condition?
Well, I just to correct what was stated, the child had bilateral pneumonia involving, again, right lung and left lung. As far as how long that had been going on, microscopic analysis might better allow that to be evaluated. Whether it was just an acute pneumonia or whether there was some organization to it. The organization may indicate that this has been going on at least for several days, maybe longer. That's still being evaluated.
You also testified about the liver. You said that the microscopic slides that you reviewed suggested there was fatty change in the liver. And that for you, that was additional signs of prolonged malnutrition, correct?
That is one feature among others.
Right. Isn't it also true that if there are problems with the liver, a person can have a problem processing carbohydrates and sugars and things of that nature?
There can be some underlying genetic disorders. Those types of things were evaluated. That was one of the things I did notice in the birth records or infant records, which showed no fatty acid metabolism type conditions.
Are you saying that it's not possible for something like that to develop over time organically?
In light of the totality of the evidence, I think this is a consequence of her malnutrition as opposed to a primary liver disease.
And nothing further. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Morning. Just a few questions for you. Do you have any idea when your final report or your final report containing your findings might be completed?
I would imagine within the next 7 to 10 days.
As it relates to, and I know you were asking questions about your finding that the child was suffering from bilateral pneumonia. At this point, and let me back up, I guess. You use the phrase acute pneumonia. What do you mean by the phrase acute pneumonia?
Well, acute pneumonia just means that it's a process that has been going on for a relatively short amount of time.
And so when you use the phrase organized, that's something that's been going on for a longer period of time.
Correct.
And at this point, do you have an opinion as to whether Mackenzie had acute pneumonia or was more organized form of pneumonia?
I think there's acute pneumonia, but whether there's an organizing component to it is something that is going to be evaluated. I think that the fact that the pneumonia was showing consolidated lung tissue indicates that this is not just acute in the sense that it's over a period of hours. I think that at this point, at least, I can say that it's going on for a period of days at least. Whether there's a component that indicates even a longer period, I'd have to look at the microscopic sense.
So you can't give an opinion about that at this point?
Not a definitive opinion.
You indicated that as relates to malnutrition, that's kind of a longer process, something that takes a period of time to develop, is that correct?
Yes.
But as it relates to dehydration, again, that's something that can occur fairly rapidly.
Yes, over a period of days. Of course, it does, just because it can occur over a rapid time sequence, doesn't mean that there can't be just a chronic component of poor fluid status.
But at this point, again, are you in a position to give any opinion as to whether it's a chronic dehydration situation or something that happened more on a shorter term basis?
I can only say that at the time of her death, she is significantly dehydrated.
As it relates to, you gave some testimony as it relates to the Mackenzie's temperatures that were taken when she was receiving treatment. And I believe you indicated that you wouldn't expect to drop from a normal temperature to the 91.5 range just within a half hour or 30-minute period. Is that correct?
Correct.
Doctor, does that mean that you believe that this child had passed away a significantly longer time before that 30 minutes?
I think that the time frame that we're being given, that I'm aware of, which is that the child was in a reasonable state of health according to the caregivers, and that had a sudden event which was followed immediately by a 911 call, doesn't fit with the forensic evidence. Based on your training experience, I know you indicated that you would expect to see a drop of about a degree an hour in the temperature. It's quite variable, but yes, it is a gradual decrease in temperature, not one that from a normal temperature to 6 or 7 degrees lower within 30 minutes. What factors might cause that temperature drop to vary? Well, there's various factors. One is the most important is just the environment in which the person is in. If you're in a hot environment, the temperature will decrease slower. If you're in a cold environment, the temperature will decrease faster. A debilitated child might lose temperature a little bit faster. But again, we're dealing with a profound decrease in temperature, which just doesn't fit with a 30-minute time frame. It fits with a significantly longer time frame, maybe several hours.
Doctor, you talked about that during your physical exam as it relates to Mackenzie's genital area, you talked about you found this excoriated and ulcerated tissue, correct? Did you have any information, did you find any information in the record as to whether or not, I guess first of all, she was potty trained?
I think my understanding is that there was some ongoing problems with potty training.
Do you recall, was there any information that she was wearing diapers or the time to wear diapers?
I think she did maybe wear some form of a diaper, a pull-up, what have you, but I think she wore underwear primarily.
Thank you, Judge.
Right, prosecutor, can you direct?
Just one point of clarification, Dr. Spitz. I just want to make sure. At one point, I think you referenced February 2013. I understood it to be February 2014, and I think Mr. Boucher repeated it as 2013.
Yes, I apologize if I said it would have been 14, a year and 3 months prior to the death.
And how much did Mackenzie weigh at her last appointment?
Well, the waist that I have is at March 14, 2013. which it would have been 2 years, more or less, she was 28 pounds. 11/15/2013, maybe a year and a half prior to the death, she weighed 28 pounds again. February 20th, 2014, a year and 3 months prior to death, she decreased in weight. And that she weighed 27.5 pounds. And then a year and 3 months later, at the time of her death, she weighed 25 pounds or 2.5 pounds less than her last pediatrician visit.
What does that tell you about the development where a 3-year-old child weighs approximately 28 pounds, a year later weighs approximately the same, and now at 5 years old, 5 plus, she weighs 25 pounds?
Yes, short of any medically sound reason, the child's not being provided the adequate nourishment and hydration that would be required for a child.
And did you find any medically provided reason?
I did not.
Right, Mr. Boucher, do you have further cross-examination?
No further cross.
Mr. Lund? Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Doctor. Next witness.
All right, this time we do on Officer Tom.
She's settled in. Go ahead and tell us your full name. And go ahead and spell your last name. Thank you. Wait, proceed.
Thank you. How are you employed? And for what jurisdiction? And were you employed in that capacity on May 26, 2015? And what was your assignment that day? Are you a road patrol officer?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you requested to respond to an address on Oak Street? And what was that address?
Yeah, I'm going to say, officer, try to voice something to get through this process, okay? You need to swoop the seat up a little bit, relax, and get your voice up a little bit, because she's having a hard time hearing you. Yes, ma'am. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ron. What was the address again? I'm sorry.
829 Oak Street.
And that's here in the city of Port Huron?
Yes, ma'am.
St. Clair?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the nature of the call that brought you there?
It was a medical call.
And when you got there, what did you find?
I found that medical personnel were already on scene, and they already had a juvenile female in the back of their EMS rig.
Did you have any contact with either of the defendants in this case at that time?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And who was that?
Be the father.
Do you see him here in court?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Can you point to him and tell me what he's wearing?
Far left of that table wearing orange.
Under the record reflects identification of defendant Andrew Mason.
Michelle?
Did you have an opportunity to ask Mr. Mason what had just occurred?
I did, due to the fact that I just arrived on scene. I was unaware of what was going on, and I did ask him to explain to me.
And what did he tell you?
He told me that 20 minutes ago the child was fine, and 15 minutes ago she just fell.
And were those his words, that she fell out?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he indicate to you how her health was other than that?
He told me that there was no prior medical incidents with the child, no history.
Did he say something about her eating?
Yes, ma'am, he did. He said that 3 days ago she stopped eating, and he would only eat a piece of this and a piece of that.
And was that the time frame that he provided you, that it was 3 days ago?
Yes, ma'am.
And again, the time frame, he indicated 20 minutes ago, she was fine. I don't have any.
Mr. Boucher, cross-examine this witness.
No questions for this witness, Judge.
Mr. Lockwood, do you have any questions?
No, Judge, thank you.
You may sit down. Next witness.
All right, we'll be calling Officer Morgan.
Seat here in the chair, and once you get settled, officer, go ahead and tell us your full name, spell your last name for the public.
Officer James Morgan, last is spelled M-O-R-G-A-N,
Thank you, you may proceed.
Thank you, Robert. And how are you employed?
with the City of Port Huron Police Department,
In what capacity?
patrol, police officer.
Were you working on May 26, 2015?
Yes.
And did you have an opportunity to be called to an address at 829 Oak Street?
Yes.
What was the nature of the call?
That was for a medical for an unresponsive child.
And when you arrived at that location, what did you find?
I found that EMS personnel was already on scene. They appeared to be performing some type of CPR on what I believe to be the unresponsive child with dispatched point.
Did you have an opportunity to talk with both of the defendants in this case at that time?
Yes.
And how did that conversation happen?
Well, ultimately, after EMS had departed from the scene, myself and Lieutenant Wesh made our way into the house and spoke to both the defendants.
When you say you made your way into the house, how did that happen?
Initially, we were given permission by male defendant to enter the home.
Were you given immediate permission?
No.
You did explain that.
Well, initially, we asked to come in, and he said that he wanted to go inside by himself for, he told us roughly 3 minutes. We explained to him that we just needed to come in and speak to him further, and then he allowed us into the house.
Did he go in by himself or with someone else first?
Yes.
And who was that?
With the female.
And you permitted that to happen at that time?
I did.
And you waited outside for him to do whatever he suggested to you he needed to do?
Correct.
And how long do you think you waited out there?
Roughly 30 seconds.
And then did he come back and get you?
Yes.
And did you have an opportunity to talk to both of the defendants at that time?
Yes.
And what did they tell you, and you could identify who it was?
Well, while I was speaking to both of them, they were both in the same room, so it was, while speaking to them, both of them intervened with statements about what had occurred.
Okay, and what did they tell you?
They said that Mackenzie had stopped eating properly for approximately the last 3 days. Said that on the day that we were called there, approximately 5 minutes prior to contacting 911, they had given her a bath. They said that they brought her out into the kitchen area and sat her on the counter in the kitchen and attempted to give her one of her liquid vitamins. They said that she just unexpectedly went unconscious and stopped breathing.
And the time frame they gave you for that was that occurred approximately 5 minutes prior to their calling 911. Is that correct?
Correct.
Could you identify the two people that gave you that statement if you see them in your report?
Yes.
And could you point to them and tell me what they were?
We were wearing orange.
Or the record reflected application of both defendants in this case?
Good show.
I don't have anything further.
No questions of this witness.
All right, any questions?
Just very briefly, as it relates to you were asking questions about the time frame before you went in the house. You said that turned out to be about 30 seconds, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And would you agree that my client basically said, I need to put the dogs away before you come into the household?
That is correct.
As it relates to, you indicated at some point there was some information given to you that like 5 minutes prior to the police being called that a bath was given. Do you remember which person told you the 5-minute time frame?
Not specifically. Like I said, all of us were in the kitchen area speaking to one another, and then statements were coming in from both defendants.
Okay, so you're not sure who might have said that?
I cannot recall the exact person who said that statement.
And in addition to giving vitamins, did they also give you the information that they were providing the child with these Ensure, like liquid shakes?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Nothing further comment?
No.
All right, this time we'd be calling Detective Frisbee.
Detective, once you get settled, can you give us your full name and spell your last name?
Karen Elise Brisby, B-R-I-S-B-Y.
Thank you. Ma'am, how are you employed?
I am employed as a police officer with the city of Fort Worth.
And what is your current assignment?
Detective.
Were you requested to assist in the investigation of what had occurred at 829 Oak Street on May 26, 2015?
Yes.
Do you recall about when you arrived at that location?
I received a call at about 10:30, so maybe half hour after, maybe closer to 11.
And what did you find when you got there?
Once I arrived, I was briefed by Detective McBride and then again by Lieutenant Platzer. Then I entered the residence at 829 Oak Street. Had contact with Sergeant Heighton and was directed to the living room area where there was a child on the couch.
Were there actually multiple children in the home?
There were.
And were you tasked with taking those children down to the police department?
Yes,
In connection with child protective services, is that correct?
that's correct.
So, how many children were in the home at that point?
There were 3 children.
In particular, was there one that caused you concern?
Yes,
And who was that?
that was Michaela.
And where did you find Michaela?
She was in the living room area of the residence, seated on the couch under a blanket.
Were you provided information as to how old Michaela was?
Yes,
And the other 2 children in the home, do you recall their names?
yes.
And what are their names?
Ethan and Madeline,
And do you recall their approximate ages?
10 and 1.
Ethan is 10,
10, yes,
and Madeline is 1,
yes.
about 18 months, is that correct?
Somewhere around there.
Okay. Looking at the 3 children, did you observe anything about them that caused you concern?
I did, yes.
And what was that?
The 1-year-old and the 10-year-old appeared to be normal. The 3-year-old was much smaller than the 1-year-old, and I initially thought the 3-year-old was the 1-year-old.
Did you communicate with Michaela, the 3-year-old?
Yes.
What was your interaction with her?
When I walked into the living room portion of the residence, she was seated on the couch, and I called her by name, and I told her that she was going to be coming with me, and she immediately asked for water.
Did you provide her water?
I did.
Where did that water come from?
It came from the refrigerator of the residence.
Well, there was water in a container in the refrigerator?
Yes, there was.
And did you provide, was it in a glass that you provided to Michaela?
Yes, it was in a Coca-Cola glass.
Did she drink that water?
She did drink that water.
And then what happened?
She asked for more water. She kept asking for more water. And prior to leaving the residence, she drank 4 to 5 glasses full of water that had lemon in it before we left.
In the container in the fridge, it had lemon in it.
Yes,
So this was prepared water, apparently.
yes.
At some point, did she ask for water when there was a response from the other children?
Yes.
And what was that?
The first time she asked for water, Ethan said
That's what you're
that.
saying.
All right, goes to state of mind.
State of mind of who?
Ethan.
I don't understand how that would go to state of mind of the defendant.
I'm not offering it for the state of mind of the defendant. I'm offering it for the state of mind of the defendant.
I'm going to allow at this point, for exam purposes, I can throw it if it's appropriate, but
Thank you very much. What did Ethan say?
He said that she couldn't have any water, that she had already had some, and she might pee.
At some point, were you able to transport Michaela from that location?
Yes.
What, how did she respond? Did you physically pick her up and take her, or how did you do that?
I did. I reached my arms out, and she reached her arms back to me when I went to pick her up. I picked her up under her armpits, and she said, ouch. There was a blanket that she was covered up in that I ended up wrapping around her to carry her from the residence.
And did you take her to the police department?
Yes.
Did you observe anything when she got her to the police department that started to cause you concern?
Yes.
And what was that?
I stood her on the ground because, again, she was asking for water. And I was filling the glass of water up. When I went to stand her up, she fell down. And she couldn't stand by herself, so I picked her up. And there was an apple that was on one of the secretary's desks that she asked for the apple, but she couldn't bite the apple. It ended up, it had to be cut into tiny pieces for her to eat the apple. And she was kind of almost like nodding, droopy eyed, so I took her to the hospital.
You had concern about her health at that point?
Yes,
What hospital did you take her to?
Fort Huron Hospital.
At some point, was she transferred to Fort Huron Hospital?
Yes,
And she was ultimately admitted at Children's Hospital in Detroit, is that correct?
that's correct.
Your Honor, I may approach.
yes.
I'm going to show you people proposed 1 and 2. Can you identify those photographs? And what are those photographs of?
These are photographs taken of Michaela while she was at Fort Huron Hospital.
So, did these photographs fairly and accurately depict how she appeared after you transported her to the hospital later that night?
Yeah.
Your Honor, I move for the admission of 1 and
Mr. Buckley, any objection?
No objection.
Mr. Boucher?
No.
All right, then, 1 and 2,
2. Your Honor, if I may.
please.
Don't have anything further on this witness.
Mr. Boucher, you want to start?
I have no questions for Detective Brisson.
Thank you. Mr. Wood, do you have any questions?
No questions at this time, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. We'll be calling Detective Kerrigan.
Detective?
Yes, it's
So, Mr. Chair, same thing, once you get settled in, go ahead and tell us your full name and spell your last name.
it's Brian Kerrigan, Kerrigan.
All right, you may proceed, prosecutor.
And how are you employed?
I'm employed with the City of Fort Huron Police Department.
In what capacity?
I'm assigned as a detective in the criminal investigation.
And in fact, are you the officer in charge of this case?
Yes.
Did you have an opportunity to observe Mackenzie Mason after she was transported and ultimately declared dead at the St. Joseph Mercy Hospital?
Yes, it is.
And in fact, did you take some photographs
I
at
did.
that time?
Yes.
I'm going to approach with people's 3, 4, and 17. Those 3, 4, and 17. Please take a look at those. Do these photographs fairly and accurately do these photographs fairly and accurately depict how Mackenzie appeared to you at the time that you observed her?
Yes.
And about what time was that?
Around 10 o'clock. I just reported.
Your Honor, at this time, I move for the admission. I move for the admission of 3, 4, and 17.
No objection, Judge.
No objection.
All right, 3, 4, and 17 are then admitted.
Did you observe injuries that were of concern to you on Mackenzie?
Yes.
And what were those types of injuries, just in general?
In general, she just basically had bruising in different stages, really from head to toe. It stood out. Obviously, once you look at the general area, obvious concern, there's obvious inflammation, redness, that there's something wrong there.
Did you observe what Dr. Spitz has described as lividity?
Yes, it.
I'm also going to close, if I may, People's Proposed 15. Is this the CAD report related to this case?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move for the admission of 15.
Still under.
No objection, Judge, I've seen it before.
No objection, Judge.
15 is also
This is a central dispatch record, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And this reflects the time of the 911 call in this case, is that correct?
Correct.
What is the time of that call?
The time of the initial call is 29 hours and 21 seconds on 5/26 of 2015.
Translating that from military time, that's about 8:29 p.m., is that correct?
Yes.
yes.
I don't have anything further this time.
Mr. Boucher, any questions?
Just a couple. Detective Kerrigan, I see that one of the things that you did was you prepared DNA collection kit, a DNA evidence collection kit. Is that true?
Did I prepare it?
From Mackenzie Mason. It says property tape 44.
So I would have collected that from the medical examiner's office after they collected the specimens or the samples.
Have those been submitted?
Yes, they have.
Do you have the results for those yet?
No.
And nothing further.
No questions, Judge.
Deborah, any further redirect?
No, thank God.
All right, please. Thank you.
All right, this time we can call Sarah Mullen.
All right.
Sarah Mullins, Mullins.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you please tell us how you were employed?
I'm employed at the State of Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
And in what capacity do you work for them?
I'm a Child Protective Services investigator.
And did you take part in the investigation involving what had occurred to Mackenzie Mason and ultimately Kayla Mason?
Yes.
Initially, I'm going to show you people's proposed Exhibit 8. You made a determination as to who had custody of these two children, is that correct?
Yes.
And in fact, you obtained a copy of a custody order in this case?
Yes, sir.
Is that the custody order in this case?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move for the admission of People's proposed date, it is in fact a certified copy.
No objection.
I've seen objection, no objection.
Right, there is a-
If I may approach, this demonstrates that both Mackenzie and Michaela were placed with their father for full custody in August of 2013, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you also have an opportunity pursuant to your investigation to obtain the medical records related to both of these children in this case?
Yes.
I'm going to show you people's proposed 9. Those are medical records from St. Joseph Mercy relating to Mackenzie Mason, is that correct?
Yes.
People's proposed 10, Fort Huron Hospital records relating to Michaela Mason, is that correct?
Yes.
Proposed 11, this is Children's Hospital relating to Mackenzie Mason, correct?
Yes.
Proposed 12, Children's Hospital relating to Michaela Mason.
Yes.
Proposed 13, Lighthouse Family Medicine records relating to Mackenzie Mackenzie Mason.
Yes.
And then people's proposed 14, Lighthouse Family Medicine records relating to Michaela Mason. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, move for the admission of exhibits 9 through 14.
Mr. Shea, you have a chance to look at it.
So I'm sure that I've seen all of these, Judge.
Right.
Judge, for the limited purposes of preliminary examination, I have no objection to the admission of the medical records.
No objection, Judge.
Right, with regards to that, then these exhibits will be admitted by the court this time.
Your Honor, I'm also moving for the admission of proposed 16. It is a demonstrative exhibit, essentially summarizing what's contained in the records that have been now admitted to the court. I've provided copies to the defense counsel simply to assist the court.
Is there any objection to this exhibit 16 also being admitted?
Again, Judge, for the limited purpose of preliminary examination, I have no objection.
Right, Mr. Lovely?
No objection for example.
Right, and 16 is also going to be admitted for court purposes. Thank you.
In your role as the protective services worker responsible for, in particular, Michaela Mason, have you followed her involvement with Children's Hospital and ultimately her health up to this point?
Yes.
How long did she stay in Children's Hospital?
She was discharged on June 1st, so she was in there for about 6 months.
And where was she placed at that time?
She was placed into a licensed foster care.
And in fact, her sister Madeline, was she also placed in that home prior?
Yes.
So she was ultimately placed with her sister?
Yes.
She has also been seen by members, or at least in particular one doctor, relating to the child protection team at Children's Hospital, is that correct?
Yes.
Dr. Nazer?
Yes.
And have you participated in that process or been present for those visits?
I was not present for the assessment, but I've seen those things, yes.
And so you had a follow-up visit with Michaela on June 1st after she was discharged, is that correct?
Yes, I took her from the hospital.
And again, did you follow up with her on June 15th?
Yes, I did.
And you took photographs of her at those visits, is that correct?
Yes.
I'm going to show you people's proposed 5 and 6. Can you identify those photographs?
These are photos of Madeline and Michaela from June 1st.
So this would have been the day that Michaela was discharged from Children's Hospital, is that correct?
Yes.
Does it fairly and accurately depict how she appeared on that day?
Yes.
And in particular, does it fairly and accurately depict how she appeared in relationship to her sister?
Yes.
People's proposed 7. What is that photograph of?
This is a photo of Michaela from 15.
Does it fairly and accurately depict how Michaela appeared on June 15th?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to move for the admission of 5, 6, and 7. She She has also been seen by members, or at least in particular one doctor, related to the child protection team at Children's Hospital. Is that correct?
Yes.
Dr. Mason?
Yes.
And have you participated in that process or been present for those visits?
I was not present for the assessment, but I've seen those things, yes.
And so, you had a follow-up visit with Michaela on June 1st after she was discharged, is that correct?
Yes, I took her from the hospital.
And again, did you follow up with her on June 15th?
Yes, I did.
And you took photographs of her at those visits, is that correct?
Yes.
I'm going to show you people's proposed 5 and 6. Can you identify those photographs?
These are photos of Madeline and Michaela from June 1st.
So this would have been the day that Michaela was discharged from Children's Hospital, is that correct?
Yes.
Does it fairly and accurately depict how she appeared on that day?
Yes.
And in particular, does it fairly and accurately depict how she appeared in relationship to her sister?
Yes.
People's proposed 7. What is that photograph of?
This is a photo of Michaela from 15.
Does it fairly and accurately depict how Michaela appeared on June 15th?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to move for the admission of 5, 6, and 7.
No objection, Judge.
No objection, Your Honor.
5, 6, and 7 are admitted.
And no further questions.
I have no questions of Ms. Mullins.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, we've already excused that. Next witness.
Your Honor, our remaining witness is Dr. Mazer, Chief of the Child Protection Team at Children's Hospital. We did file a motion with the court requesting that she be permitted to testify telephonically.
Okay.
Her availability is somewhat limited today. She is asking to be permitted to testify after 1 o'clock.
Right, so you're telling me she'd be available in telephonic testimony, let's say if everyone needed 1:30 today?
Yes.
With regards to this matter, position on this, offense at this point, Mr. Shea.
Judge, I have no opposition under the, based on the circumstances, it's simply preliminary examination.
No objection to that, Judge.
All right, based upon dealing with your scheduling, the doctor, I will adjourn this proceeding until today. We'll go back at 1:30 in the afternoon to continue this preliminary exam. Do you anticipate any other witnesses at this point?
No.
So we'll just be wrapping up your exam for your purposes at this point with the doctor's testimony. All right, then that's what we're going to do. The matter's going to stand adjourned until after lunch. We'll see if we'll be back at 1:30.